Oh, hey everybody, this is Brian with EnGenius Technologies. I want to thank you for joining today. We appreciate your time, and I want to thank Jeff Keenan for hosting this webinar. I appreciate his time. Jeff is also on this webinar, so Jeff, if you could just say hi real quick.
Hi, everyone. I'll stick around and hopefully answer some questions later. We'll let Brian drive it, though.
Okay. All right, so again, thanks for joining us today. And so the topic for this particular webinar is EnGenius Cloud. And so what I'll cover is we'll go over, we'll do an EnGenius Cloud overview, basically business benefits, how to get started within the cloud, and then we'll actually go through a demo, a live demo, and then we'll do like a really short hardware review. And then there's a EnGenius Cloud case study that is almost completed, but we can talk about it at the end of this webinar, and then we'll save it for any questions that you may have. So if you think of questions as I go through the webinar, be sure to ask them at the end, and Jeff and or I could answer those questions for you. So if you did not know, Jeff Keenan has been a partner of ours for probably 15 years. EnGenius is, we were established about 20 years ago. So Jeff is a long-time partner of ours and a authorized distributor for the EnGenius Cloud product line. So again, thanks to Jeff for hosting this webinar. So with that said, let me get started. Okay, so for SMBs and enterprises who need to easily and securely manage their wireless networks without servers, EnGenius Cloud is the way to go. EnGenius Cloud's quick installation and configuration provides reliable performance, predictive analysis, and real-time insights to enable companies to focus on growing their businesses. So we really wanted to create a system, a management system of our hardware that works really easily. It's very intuitive. It's quick to get online. It's quick to get devices set up. It's quick for our customers to use. So this is something that we really wanted to make sure that we implemented this solution into our full solution. So EnGenius Cloud is one of those network management systems that I think a lot of people will see value in, and allows really companies to focus on growing their businesses rather than worrying about the system itself. It really allows the system to work in the background, and for our partners not to worry about if the system's going down, if they can't check it. So there's a lot of value within the solution in itself. The components of the solution itself is the cloud platform, which we'll talk about, and I'll do a live demo. And luckily, there's some individuals on this particular webinar that have used it or currently using it very successfully in a couple different cases. You have cloud access points, you have cloud switches, and you have a mobile app. Now, if you're familiar with EnGenius, we have a very comprehensive line of Wi-Fi, and our switch line is growing very drastically. So you'll see, or dramatically, you'll see a lot more switches come from us. But with the cloud solution, you'll notice within our part numbers, it's typically EC, which stands for EnGenius Cloud, and then you'll either see a W, which is for wireless, or an S that stands for switch. So any access point that you see from us, any switch that you see from us, it's EC. The prefix or the part number is EC or ECW or ECS, I should say. But the whole cloud solution is the platform, access points, switches, and the app. And I hope to show the app today too, and actually register a device within Keenan's network. So we'll show you that later in the live demo. So some of the business benefits and the whole idea behind cloud management is keeping your business competitive and running smoothly. We'll talk a little more about the licensing and things, but it's a very visually rich interface. It gives you a lot of insights into a network. You can actually look at your networks at a very high level and be able to drill down very quickly to a specific access point, to a specific switch, to a specific user on a particular access point. So it allows you to drill down very quickly and identify problems and to be able to adjust to those problems. You can actually utilize our automatic and scheduled firmware updates, which I'll show you within the interface itself. If you're not aware, EnGenius was one of the first companies to launch Wi-Fi 6 technology or 802.11ax into the SMB market. So we have multiple models that are Wi-Fi 6 or 802.11ax, and we also offer gigabit switching. And then coming down the line for cloud, you'll see a firewall, and you will also see a router, I think around Q3, maybe Q4 for the router, but you'll see more and more components come together as time goes on. So just keep an eye out on that. The EnGenius Cloud also scales to any business size and demand, so you can easily register devices, which I'll show you today, and you can move or rename cloud devices very easily, and you can add unlimited cloud devices. So for every account that you create, or every account that's created can have up to 100,000 devices. So for example, if one of you created an account today, you could have 100,000 devices, meaning a mixture of access points and or switches within your network, and you can manage up to 100,000 devices, and that's part of our core competency within the EnGenius Cloud itself. Also with EnGenius Cloud, you have 24/7 control monitoring and troubleshooting. You can monitor and troubleshoot from the EnGenius app itself. I want to say on a bi-weekly basis, we're adding new features into the app itself. So I've been getting updates more often in the past couple months. So it's changed over the last few weeks in a good way. Now you have visibility into switches and things like that. But the EnGenius app is very powerful in what you can see and what you can do, and we continue to add features to that. This also allows you to pinpoint and resolve failure points. You can actually do that through the cloud interface itself or through the app. And then we have a 99.99 service level guarantee. And that goes back to our core competency and how the cloud networking infrastructure is set up. And I'll talk a little bit about that on the next slide. It's minimal point of entry. What I mean by that, it's a full-featured, license-free cloud network management. Again, that's a full-featured, license-free cloud network management. We will not be moving to a paid license structure. And when we do, I should say, it will be on more, as the features get more detailed and or we add more enterprise type features, you will see a license come with that. But everything that I show you today and everything you can do within the cloud is all license free. And so that will continue until Q3. You'll still continue to have license free, and then there will be two structures, license free, and then there will be a paid structure, which will have the enterprise level type of features added to it. You have a very affordable business class hardware setup. As I mentioned, we have Wi-Fi 6, we have gigabit switching. We're adding multi-gigabit switching to the platform. You should see 2 multi-gigabit switches coming next month that I'm launching, to 8-port multi-gig. So that's coming. As I mentioned before, there will be a gateway that will be introduced along with firewall. So that will also be coming. There's minimal learning curve. It's a very quick setup, which I'll show today. The quick setup is about 6-7 steps. I'll show you best practices on how I typically set up a particular account and what I do within the cloud. And so that's very easy. I also have a setup guide that I can send everybody. It's basically getting started in the cloud. It's a very simple process. You can easily scan, register, and provision devices. I'll show you that today. All of our cloud networking product, either a switch and or access point, have a QR code on the bottom of that. Through the EnGenius Cloud app, you can simply scan these devices and you can add them into your account, and then you can assign them to specific networks. And then there's a simple hierarchy structure. which I'll show you. It's a hierarchy structure that allows you to take complicated networks and organize them very easily. And I'll be able to show you that today too within the demo. So a little bit about our core competency. We have developed this networking management system over the last 2 years. We actually started with a different system and quickly figured out that it's very hard to scale when you're using other methods. It's also difficult to add in new features such as artificial intelligence, which you'll start to see more of. More advanced features, it's very difficult to use when you're using actual single server solutions or just different types of cloud solutions that are out there. So it gave us a really good opportunity to choose one of the most advanced cloud infrastructures or systems in place, and that's serverless. So it's one of the most advanced serverless cloud infrastructure. So there's really no server boundaries whatsoever. That system uses something called function as a service. So each function that you're using, it's its own scalable function, and they work together with one another. So that actually allows us to scale very, very high or rapidly change in one direction or the other, change up or change down. And then, so with having it serverless and also using function as a service, the reliability increases dramatically. The service level agreement goes up to 99.99. So your network is always up. And we can say that because we're very aware of our competitors and the other cloud technology that they use, and we know that it does not scale, which they're calling out 99.99 service level agreement. Some of these larger companies, very large companies, say that they can scale very high, but some of their largest customers today are using about 36,000 devices, where we've tested up to 100,000 devices. So you can see that we can scale very, very high. So with that technology, we're building everything. We're building a foundation for our future and your future, so we can start to add in more advanced features into the system in itself. To get started, it's very simple. You basically, all you need to do, and this is, I'll show you this today, is create an EnGenius Cloud account. I'll show you where to do that. Create an organization, create a network, very simple to do. You can download the EnGenius Cloud app at that point. You can create an account at any time. You can download the app at any time. You can then unbox a cloud device, scan the device, and then you can simply assign it to a network that you've created within your account yourself, and then you can simply connect your device. Now you can create the account, you can create organizations, networks, you can actually do configuration, group AP configurations, switch configurations, before you plug any device in at all. Before you even purchase a device, you can have all these things created and configured prior to even buying the devices. And you can actually drop ship those devices to a location remotely, have those devices plug in, and they'll understand, oh, this person has assigned me to their account. And then I will connect to that particular account, and I've been assigned to an organization, and then I have been assigned to a network, and then I download the configurations, and I'll show you that process today with Jeff's network. So let's go into the cloud demo. And so I really wanted, this is probably the most important part of this particular webinar. It's really showing you the interface, how the interface works, how to register a device. And so I wanted to really show that today. So the first thing that you want to do is you go to engeniustech.com. There's actually two areas where you can go. You can just click here anywhere, or you can go to solutions, go to EnGenius Cloud. Once you go to the EnGenius Cloud solution, which is a microsite, you can find out a lot of different information. Always highlight hardware, because you can find out more about what hardware we have released and what's available to you today. So all those devices are in this area, and you can simply click and go to the individual product pages. It gives you more information about those particular devices. But you'll notice I have login and demo. We're going to click on login. Regardless if you have an account or not, you're going to click login. From login, you're going to create an account. So you can either do that through Google, Facebook, or your EnGenius partner credentials, or you can simply click sign up. Obviously, I already have an account, so let me just tell you, prior to me logging into my account, I have I have visibility into a lot of different accounts, so you're going to see more than what you would normally do for when you log in for the first time. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And so once I've logged in, you see that I'm in the EnGenius network. I'm in the EnGenius organization and the network. And so this is our actual network that's running today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this menu up here, and I'll change that. But let me explain this menu really quick. On the left side, the vertical side, you'll see the EnGenius Cloud logo. Under that logo, we have the vertical menu, and this is where you can make a lot of different changes and configurations. So you have manage, you have configure, you have analyze, and then this is called InSky. I won't go into InSky. You have team member, and then you have organization, and that's where your inventory is. Across the horizontal, you have your admin area, your admin login information. For example, my profile information, my password, language. I can take a tour, my notifications. I can click on my notifications. I have notifications for different networks. And then the question mark is user manual remote support if I need it. And I'll talk about remote support as we go through this. But so this is the basis of the EnGenius Cloud, the initial interface, the dashboard. That's what we're looking at right now. So right now we're looking at EnGenius's dashboard. I click on this hamburger menu right here, and you'll see that I have multiple networks or organizations is what we call it. And I'll go to the EnGenius, or excuse me, Keenan organization. I double click. I have now at the Keenan Systems organization. Organization is basically, you might have different customers, for example. And so Keenan Systems is one organization. For me to create, the first thing I want to do after creating an account and I log into the account, I want to create an organization. You can simply click add an organization, and I can call it whatever I want. I can select my country and my time zone. It's very important to select your time zones, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Once I've created my organization, I can then, you'll see this small menu off to the right here. I can create what is called a hierarchy view. I can create a network. I can edit this particular organization, or I can delete this organization. So if I click add network, same thing. I can create a network, the country, and the time zone. Again, the time zone is very important. So if I have, say for example, I'll create a hierarchy view. I'll add, currently Jeff has one network. It's called Keenan Network for this particular webinar. I'm going to create a hierarchy view and call it East. I am then going to create another hierarchy called West. So what this is allowing me to do is to divide up my networks and better organize my networks. So under East, I can actually create a network. So for example, if Keenan has 2 locations or multiple locations on the East Coast and the West Coast, he can, for example, create a network called New Jersey or Connecticut, for example. In the West, he can create San Francisco or LA. So it allows you to really kind of better organize your workload, your networks. And so I can simply delete those. And so this is the hierarchy view. Oops, excuse me. And this allows me to organize my workload. So I have multiple organizations, and so these other organizations are beta users and are some customers. So let's stick to Keenan Systems. So once I've created the organization and I created the network, I'll double click on the network. 2 things you want to notice: that every time I'm in a location, it's underlined. So now I'm looking at, I can look at the organization dashboard, or I can look at the network dashboard by just simply double clicking. So I'm under Keenan, and you can see that the menu structure changes up here, or the hierarchy changes up here. I'm going to go into his network. And now I have Keenan Systems, the organization, and then the network. And then now I can see his network. I can see that he has one client, one access point. This is the dashboard. So once I've created an account, I logged into the account, I created an organization, I created a network. The next thing I want to do is I want to use this vertical menu to the left. And the first thing that, these are best practices from me. So the best practice for me is to get you up and running very quickly, create the org, create the network, and then I go right to SSID. And I can actually, Jeff has 2 SSIDs. And this is basically group AP configurations. And so I can configure multiple SSIDs. I can actually configure up to 8 SSIDs operating on 2.4 or 5 gigahertz or both. It really depends on your infrastructure, your environment, your customer. So I can add SSIDs, I can delete SSIDs, I can modify SSIDs. So if I click on Jeff's guest network, I can have, I can go into that particular SSID, I can change configurations, or I can simply add an SSID if I want to. So for the sake of this webinar, I will go into an existing SSID. And so like I said, the first thing you want to do is create an SSID. For example, this one's called Keenan Guest. It's obviously enabled. You can disable that if you want to. This SSID is going to operate on 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. In this particular case, Jeff is using WPA2 Enterprise. He's chosen to use Radius server, EnGenius Cloud Radius. So we may or may not show an example of that, but that's currently set up. He is not running 802.11r. He's running 802.11w. We have it in bridge mode and enabled application analysis.
Hey, Brian, explain a little bit about the Cloud Radius. It's kind of interesting. That you can basically add users to the EnGenius Cloud, and if you have this Cloud Radius WPA2 Enterprise checked off, it's gonna use 802.1x to authenticate and encrypt, and all using the EnGenius Cloud. You don't have to have any other infrastructure, so it makes it really flexible, a good way to add a authentication mechanism.
Yeah, and so the user experience is, if I'm on my cell phone, for example, and I log into Keenan Guest, for example, I associate to Keenan Guest, I log in, I get username, password. As long as I'm built within the infrastructure, within the cloud system as a Radius user, I can log in.
And there's no captive portal with this configuration. It'll open a username and password on any OS.
Yeah, so that's a feature that has been built in and works really well. So under wireless, you're creating your SSID, and then you have your configurations. As you can see, we're supporting WPA3, enterprise, mix, and then personal. So the next thing I want to do is, if I want to choose traffic shaping, I can choose traffic shaping. I can do that by SSID. I can do it per user if I want to. I can enable captive portal if I simply, and I can choose my method through captive portal if I want to. I can go to splash page. I can then build a splash page. And just so you know, within the next week or two, you will have very advanced features to modifying the splash page. So that will be added here shortly. Within a week, maybe within 2 weeks. So you have splash page here. You can go to an external splash page, or you can build your own within the cloud. And then you have schedule. So for this particular SSID, I can enable scheduling, and I can have Wi-Fi turned on at particular times and turned off on particular times. It just really depends on what you want to do. So I've created an account with EnGenius Cloud. I went in, created an organization. I created a network. I then created an SSID. And then the next thing, I'm not going to apply changes because it's already created. The next thing I want to do is go back to the gear, this particular menu. Sorry if I didn't mention that before. But this screen, you're doing a lot of monitoring, and you're doing some configurations. This screen, you're really configuring specific SSIDs and radio settings and things like that. So what I'm going to do next is do radio settings. So under radio settings, I have the choices of configuring for indoor and outdoor. The cloud system will recognize the outdoor unit, and you can configure specific settings for outdoor if you want, or you can just disable the radios. It's really dependent on what you want to do. But here I can then configure radio settings: channel width, transmit power, client limitation. There's multiple things here. I can enable meshing. For you that like to use meshing, you can enable meshing here. And all of our devices will mesh. It doesn't matter if it's a ceiling mount, desktop, a wall plate, an outdoor unit, they will all mesh. Just really depends on how you want to configure that. You can configure that on 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz, just to give you an idea. And you can do that for indoor and outdoor. So just keep that in mind. So all your radio settings are here. So I won't make any changes to this particular setting whatsoever. So again, I've created an account with EnGenius Cloud, created an organization, a network, configured SSID, configure radio. And that's basically the best practices up until this point. This is what the first steps are for setting up the EnGenius Cloud. And what I'll do is I'll try to talk about the other features within here as we do our registration. So once you have those things set up, the next thing is to onboard switches and or access points. In this case, what I'm going to try to do as a live demo is to register an access point. So what you want to do is you want to go down to your organization and you want to go to inventory. And then Jeff currently has two in his inventory. He has an access point, which is the ECW 230, which is a 4x4 access point, 11AX access point, and then the NSky, which is the Sky key, which we won't go into detail about. But he has two devices registered to this organization, and they're assigned to the Kina network. So it's assigned to that network, and it was assigned by Jeff. So what we can do to add more switches, more access points, is we can simply register a device, and I can put in the serial number and register it here, or I can use the EnGenius Cloud app. And so what I'll do is I will attempt to show you through the app. Let's see here. Bear with me. Okay. So right now I'm on my phone. Let me minimize that. And I'm going to the EnGenius Cloud app, which is right here. And I'm logging in. And so this is the EnGenius Cloud app. And so if I go to the top hamburger menu here, I can actually change my organizations. I can choose my organizations. And if you have multiple organizations, you should be really careful here, because I found that you can, if you're on the wrong organization by mistake, if you hit the wrong organization and you register a device, you've just registered a device to another organization. So you just want to make sure you're aware of that. Now, in your own situation, you may not have as many organizations as I do, so you might not run into that. But make sure you're on the right organization. I can simply hit the plus sign in this corner here. Let me click off that. And so I'll do that now. You'll see it goes right to my my actual camera on my phone. And so we're going to register an access point, right? So captured it right away. This access point is a ECW 120. Here's the MAC address. Here's the serial number. I'm going to register that device. And it says, okay, register more. So it's asking me if I want to register more access points or switches, so I can register more devices. So right now I don't want to do that. I'm going to close that. And now I have those devices registered. I can go to my inventory now, and you can see it in my inventory. This is the existing two devices that were in Keenan's inventory. And then I added this other one. Now I can choose to use the app, and I can assign it to a location, or I can assign it to a network within the cloud system itself. Let me do this. Oh. So basically what I want to do, let me cancel that so you can see. So if I go to location and I just hit the edit button, it's asking me, okay, what network? And in this case, we only have one network under Keenan's organization. So I'm going to click Keenan Network and apply. So it should be, you can see that it's changed to location is Keenan Network. And so while I'm in the app, I just registered a device. Let me show you a little bit on the app itself. So let me go to monitor, choose the network. And basically the interface is very similar to what you saw on the GUI. So this is the interface. If I slide to the left, I see if there's any potential issues. There's offline AP, that's the AP I just added. If I scroll down, you can see that I see two APs. One's offline, meaning one's online. There's one client, there's no switches. I can see throughput. I can look at throughput per SSID if I want to. Top access points. And if I scroll to the left, I can see top clients, top SSIDs, top applications, top OSs. I can then, if I go to the bottom here, I can go to devices, look at my devices. I can actually go into the device and I can look at the device's configuration. I can look at the SSID information. I can look at what clients are associated. I can look at logs, real-time meters. I can do a replace function, which I may or may not talk about. I can do a reboot, or I can turn off the LEDs, or I can blink the LEDs. So there's a lot you can do with the individual devices. I can look at clients. Right now there's 2 clients. And events, any of the events, device events, system events, config logs. There's multiple things I can do there. So just want to show you that really quickly. So what I'll do is I'll close this out and I'll go back to the interface. So if I do a refresh, we're looking at Keenan's organization and the inventory, and you can see that here's the new access point and it's been assigned. So what I can do now, let me try to do this too, is I'm going to take that access point and I'm going to plug that access point into the network here in Costa Mesa. So I'm sitting in Orange County, California, and Jeff's sitting in Connecticut. Jeff has created the SSIDs. He has created the organization, the network. He's created the SSIDs, like I said, and he's configured the radios. And so what I'm doing is Jeff then can buy a device and drop ship the device. And so, for example, he's drop shipped that to Orange County, California, and I'm, as a technician, putting this device in for the very first time. So I'm plugging that device in. And I'll show you that in a second here.
Yeah, and I mean, Brian, there's no, just so they understand, there's no local configuration of that access point. As long as you plug it in, it gets DHCP and has internet access, it's going to find the cloud and get its configuration. So
yep,
that's pretty powerful. No one has to be there to actually touch it.
So I just plugged in, this is the device I scanned, and this is, it's plugged into just a normal non-PoE switch that's connected to our network. And sorry for all the wires and stuff like that, but just for the sake of this webinar. So right now it's a blinking LED, and what it's doing, it's searching, it's looking for, it's saying, okay, it's going out to the cloud right now, and it's saying, okay, Brian has associated me to the Keenan account or his account and assigned me to the Keenan organization, and assigned me to the network. And so we're waiting for that. What happens is the access point will go and look out for, the first thing it will do is say, okay, it's been, it's been assigned to this organization, to this network, and then it checks for a firmware update, and it goes through a firmware update for the first time, and then it is associated to the network. So let's look at our access points within Keenan organization. So you can see it's not online right now. So we're waiting for that device to be online. I can see that the LED, the power light, is still blinking, so it's not on. When you see channel, the WAN IP, the LAN IP, and the firmware, you know that it's coming online. When it changes color, then you know it's online. So we'll just wait for that to actually happen. So let's see well, hopefully that happens quickly. But while that's happening, let me show you around the other areas. So, so let me explain. So when I register an access point, go to inventory. When I register the access point and I sign it to a network, when I sign it to this Keenan network, it will take on these SSIDs and all the configurations of these SSIDs. So that access point I just showed you on my camera will take on two SSIDs, one Keenan guest and Keenan staff, and will be configured in this way with the radios. They're both enabled, they're not hidden. They'll have these specific security settings. There's no captive portal, there's no splash page turned on, there's no traffic shaping, no VLAN scheduling or anything. So that access point that I just assigned to this network will take on these configurations.
Yeah, and if you
And
had
also,
a multi-location business, you know, like a coffee house, like in every state, you had branches. You could, you know, if you want to keep it simple, you could send that same configuration out everywhere. And as they plug them in, they'll take that configuration on.
Yep. And so, so that's SSIDs and radio. So it's taking on those configurations right now. It's up actually. So you can see at Jeff's location, he's at 98, an IP address of 98, and we're on an IP address of 45. We're both on the same. We're on the same scheme, obviously here. There's no clients associated to that particular device. So you can see it's already online. And let's see. So let me just show you around just really quickly. So I have dashboard. So within the dashboard, now you can see that I have two access points on. There's two clients. Both of them are online. There's no switches. There's very little data being passed through right now. You can see top APs, client, SSIDs, and so on. So there's a lot of great information you can see here. I can simply click and go to that list, which is here. This is called access point list. If I click, I can edit the name, or I can look at the details of this particular configuration. And I can compare access points. I can compare channels. I can compare transmit power, channel width, the different SSIDs. I can go to details and do a granular look on the configurations of this particular access point. I can look at summary, logs, or clients on this particular access point. I can turn off LEDs. I can look at the real-time meter. Right now, CPU usage is only 3%, memory's at 78%. I can hide that screen. And
Right,
then I
show
can
the historical data from the dashboard too. That's pretty powerful.
from the dashboard. So if I go to dashboard, I can actually scroll down and I can look per SSID. I can look at guests. I can look at staff. I can look at today's data, or I can look over a week of time or a month of time. So it will give me information on a day, week, or a month. Let me pop over to the EnGenius network really quick. So if you notice, like I went from Keenan's network to EnGenius network, and I went very, very quickly. And so you can see how fast the system is. So I'm in EnGenius Cloud SSID. I'm looking for, say, a week worth of information. And so I can see the history, or I look at a month, and I can see the history of the month. You can see we're closed around that time. So there's a lot of information you can see, and that's kind of the historical information that you can see. So let me pop back over to Keenan Systems Network. And notice the dashboard changes very quickly. So there's a lot of great information there. So I can do that with the switches. I can look at the switch list, and I will jump over to EnGenius's network so you can see switches there. I can see the number of ports. So there's a lot of great information. I can tell that these 3 ports are providing PoE. This particular port is plugged in, but it's not providing PoE. This is my uplink port. This is going to another switch or to a router. These are my SFP ports. If I want to, I can go to the details of this particular switch, and I can make configuration changes here if I'd like. I can go to system settings, port settings. I can actually modify per port if I want to. I can disable ports, label ports, enable PoE, set priorities, VLANs, isolation. There's multiple things I can do there. So I will jump, and excuse me if I'm jumping around too much for you, but I wanted to show you. Jeff doesn't have any switches online right now, so I wanted to show you the switch area. You have topology view. I got to do it again. My apologies. Switches give you a topology view, and it shows you device relationship. And so it tells me, okay, this is the current setup. We have this particular switch. It's online. It gives me general information. If I click on that, I can collapse the view, or I can go to the details. I can look at the power budget. We're using 21 watts of the 410 watts. I can do the same with the access points. I can see the general information about the access point. I can go to the detail pages of that particular access point. This is topology view. So I'm jumping back into Keenan's organization and network. Currently, there's no switch, so you don't have a topology view. So, and then clients, the list of clients that are on this particular network. Oops, sorry, clicking too fast. You can see who's been on the network. Under configurations, you've seen SSID radio settings. Cloud radius is where actually Jeff has configured 2 cloud radius users. And then so it allows me to authenticate with his the cloud server or the cloud radius server. So that's the cloud radius users. Firmware updates. This is where you can do maintenance on firmware updates. You can do APs and or switches. And you can choose beta, stable, previous, and you can look at what's available for the access points and what are available for the switches and the release dates. We will be releasing release notes also, and you can schedule the time when firmware updates happen. You can set alerts, you can set VLANs, you can do switch settings, which are group switch settings. So if you throw in a bunch of switches, you can have group settings, and this is where you would do those group settings. General settings, I won't go into. Team member, which is multi-tenant. You can see that these users have access into Keenan's organization and network, and we all have admin rights except for Gabriel, who has viewer rights, and you can modify. This is our team member, our multi-tenant tool where you can invite users by email, and you can set their priority or their access. So they can be an admin, a viewer, or a front desk user. We do have a voucher system within this system too, so you can create vouchers in the captive portal area. So that was a quick rundown. Again, the best practices for getting set up is create an account. It's free with EnGenius. Just use your email, your business email. Create an organization, create a network, configure an SSID, configure radios. You don't even have to configure radios. Create an SSID and configure the SSIDs. And then you just bring in devices by going to the inventory and adding them there, or you use the app and use the app to scan the devices in.
Hey, Brian.
So, yes.
Sorry, talk about the online help utility there too.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I forgot about that. So just really quick for the
questions while they're bringing them online.
Yep. So you'll notice this little tool right here. It's called Intercom. Intercom allows our cloud users to get direct access to our customer service, our sales engineers, and our product line management, and our software engineers, and our hardware engineers. Typically, you're going to get initial responses from our sales engineers and or our customer service. But I can actually ask questions here. I can create a new conversation and ask questions here to the EnGenius staff internally, and we can respond through this tool. I can actually create tickets. Really, you're creating a passcode. So I can create a passcode. The person on the other end, which is an EnGenius representative, will get the code, and I can actually log in and help with configurations. I can help walk you through particular tools or configurations. I can present within this tool if I want to, but you generate a passcode, so you invite an EnGenius sales engineer in, or a customer service engineer in, or a product line manager in to get support, to get help, or to have, if you have any questions. So you can do that through the intercom system, and the intercom system is only available in the EnGenius Cloud. And if you're a cloud user, EnGenius Cloud user, you can use this tool, no problem. So that's a really cool tool that we implemented, and we hope that you utilize. So thanks for reminding me about that. So the cloud demo, that's basically the cloud demo. So I wanted to do a quick hardware review. We have multiple access points, anywhere from a 4x4 11AX to a 2x2 to 11AC Wave 2 ceiling mounts. These are all ceiling mounts. We also have a wall plate design that will come out in February. So that's coming out very shortly. That's a Wave 2 2x2 design. And then we have an outdoor design. My go-to access point is the ECW230. It's a 4x4 11AX Wi-Fi access point. That access point works really, really well. That's my go-to access point when I'm working with customers, or I'm running this at my house. So I love this particular device, and I have a case study to show you the performance of this particular device and this particular device. We also have a line of switches, cloud switches, anywhere from a 48 port all the way down to an 8 port with different power budgets. So these are all PoE. As I mentioned, in February, we'll launch two more switches, multi-gigabit, meaning they'll support up to 2.5 gig per port with auto sensing. They're cloud switches. They'll have SFP plus ports on them also. And we'll have a PoE version and a non-PoE version in that particular switch. So you'll see that coming down the pipeline very, very soon. So this is our current lineup of cloud products. You'll notice that all the part numbers are ECW or ECS. These products are supported by cloud. The SkyKey for the users that are aware of SkyKey is also supported by the cloud too. Where you can actually implement this solution are MDUs, hospitality, healthcare, education. I just wrote a document around HIPAA compliancy, and how the EnGenius product does fit in healthcare, or specifically in assisted living or residential care. I do have that document available for anybody that wants that document. It talks about the particular features that you would use in a assisted living facilities or residential care, a medical office. Anybody that's sharing personal information, medical information, would want to know this information about our products and what features to utilize when they're in that particular example. We've been doing hospitality for the longest time. We're going into a lot of different student housing, apartment complexes, and condos. I'm currently working with a particular managed service provider in a residential space. It's a 17th floor deployment with the 4x4 11AX access point with multiple 24 ports and 48 port switches. So MDUs is a huge one for us. So MDU, hospitality, healthcare, and education. So these are the sweet spots for EnGenius Cloud specifically. Anything to add to that, Jeff, at all?
I want to say these are perfect for hospitality. Just, hospitality, bars and restaurants where you have high density. I know you're going to talk about a case study of some like incredible high density usage, but yeah, these things can handle high numbers of users, high traffic. They're very reliable, and you can see how easy they are to monitor. So that's key to the hospitality, and I think these are your new go-to for those markets.
Thanks, Jeff. So So for the new year, we actually had a deployment come to us in Taipei, Taiwan. So we use the EnGenius Cloud Wi-Fi 6 to deploy in Taipei for the 2020 countdown party to bring in the new year. So as you can see, it's a very high capacity, high device kind of case study that we did. And I'll share more information around this case study. We're actually writing up a case study now on that, but I'll give you some of the information about that particular case study. So there was 20,000 attendees, about 108,000 square feet or square foot area. There ended up being about 6,000 concurrent devices connected at the same time. The products that we used or the system integrator used was, they used 60 ECW 230s and 51 ECW 220s. You can see that this was a temporary network. This was just for this particular event. They had to set it up very quickly and tear it down very, very quickly. So if you notice, on every one of these poles, there's 8 to 10 access points serving the large capacity of people that would be in this environment. So each of these poles had anywhere from 8 to 10 access points. In this case, which it was kind of funny, they used indoor access points for this solution because of the 4x4 and the 2x2 11AX access points, and they actually wrapped this just in case it rained, just to make sure that everything was okay. So it was kind of funny to see that. But they used our switches along with a cloud router that that we're starting to develop. So the area was very large, 108,000 square feet, and we had almost 6,000 concurrent users at the same time on this particular network. And so very, very big event, high density, where there was a lot of major stars that came to this event. There's a lot of social media being added. There was a lot of press here. So we needed to make sure that this solution was going to be very, very stable. So we were using about 111 access points in this scenario, but the area was very, very large. You're only seeing a portion of it. There's more behind this area in the opposite direction that we covered. So